to another edition of Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C. I am so excited to have my friend on, who I've been wanting to have on for a while. We got Colin. Now, Colin, you've got to say, I'll say your name wrong, because ask Grace, I'll say it. So say it for us, so I say it right.
Colin, it's Lepiscopo.
Lepiscopo, like Joe Piscopo, but Lepiscopo.
Like Joe Piscopo. Yeah,
See,
some people know Joe Piscopo, right?
Yeah, I won't sing any of his songs with Eddie Murphy. Yes, we are excited. Thank you guys for joining us today. If you are just here for the first time, we're going to hit go in just a second. But if you would do us a favor and share this across the interwebs, share the love to everybody. It helps us get the show out and lets people know about it. And as always, we want to take your questions. So as we're going along today, feel free to ask your questions down below. We'll try to pull them up today during the show, because Colin is amazing, and he's going to be an awesome guest today. So ask your questions. If he says something like, "What? What was that? What does he mean?" Ask him to explain it, and we'll stop the show and get that question answered. So, Grace, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, but do they have to ask it that way? What do you
stop
what is
the
this?
show? Stop the press.
What is he talking about?
Yes.
Why is he talking? Why is he?
They ask that a lot, Grace. They do. So we got our friends popping in. We've got Brian Farrell saying, "Good evening, all." It's evening over the UK. Check him out. I talked about him a couple weeks ago. He's an amazing photographer over in the UK. Does a lot of wedding photography. Photography by Brian. So Brian, thank you for stopping by as always over on YouTube. Jessica,
my friend Jessica McFadden.
She goes, "Grace is the woman," and I've been a fan of her marketing prowess for a decade. A decade. Wow.
It's a decade. I do have my fans, Jeff. I know it's surprising.
No, I know. I think you're you're like my secret weapon. So it's exciting. So Ian says, "Howdy, howdy." We got some more UK people stopping in. Ian Anderson Gray, our friend. Howdy, howdy, howdy. He knows I'm from Texas. So good morrow from the Queen's great country. Oh, we're going high English now. All right. Thanks, Ian. Yes, very, very fun.
Man, the sophistication level of
I know. And then we got Anna from
up.
Florida over on LinkedIn. Thank you, Anna, for watching today. We're going to have some great stuff talking all about this campaign planning. We have a new series that Grace started called Ask a Marketer, and we have a marketer with us who is amazing. So I'm going to hit go on Amazon Live, and I'm also going to hit go on the podcast machine. We'll get started. You guys ready?
Ready.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date in the world of social media.
Today, our great friend Colin Lepiscopo is joining us today. We're going to be getting into campaign strategy and planning for 2022, what we learned from 2021, and what's ahead for 2022 in the marketing space. So, Colin, so excited. Been wanting to have you on the show for a while. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing great. So happy to be here. I've got some Christmas lights to put up this weekend.
Yeah.
And celebrating a 41st birthday. So it's kind of a lot coming up. So
you're a young pup.
Happy birthday.
Oh, I thought you were going to start singing. Yeah. That was great.
In a few days. So yeah, that's what's cool. Going on here. It's kind of, it rained in San Diego. We're having fun.
It kind of, and I saw some posts about this. It kind of stinks when your birthday is this close to Christmas growing up. When it's like, we'll lump them together.
Combo gift city all day. Yeah, that happens a lot. And as a kid, as an adult, you're like, oh, that's fine.
Right.
Grandma, appreciate everything you can do. But as a kid, you're like, I want 2 toys. Okay.
Exactly.
I was first.
Yeah. Yes,
so,
that is true.
All those kids in June, man, they're getting hooked up.
Mine was in July. It was amazing. So it was perfect, right in the middle. So. All right, if you guys don't know if you don't know who Colin is, Colin Lepiscopo is the director of campaign strategy for Global Leadership Network, and he has 9+ years of experience marketing live events, TV production, Broadway musicals, best-selling books, and online products. He is also the founder of Meta Conversions, a CRO agency that helps businesses grow. He is also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu blue belt who trains in San Diego, so he can kill you just by looking at you. So he's amazing.
That's not true.
Okay, well,
Ashton Kutcher could beat me up.
It's the cheekbones.
Like
the cheekbones.
Exactly. Yes.
The cheekbones, Jeff. They can kill you.
Right.
So, Colin,
I can press
welcome
it right on your carotid artery, I think.
Right. It just slice you, right?
Yeah.
So Colin, we're so excited to have you. I love that you told Jeff, like, yeah, I'll come by sometime next year. And we're like, how about in 2 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
And you came because you are a pro in all things. But before we get started, tell us about your organizations, both Global Leadership Network and Meta Conversions, not to be confused with the other Meta. But tell us what they each do and what you do at those places.
Yeah, so the Global Leadership Network basically has a big summit that they do each year in August called the Global Leadership Summit, where it's actually in host sites all over the world. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that gather. They learn important transformational leadership values and things, and take those back to their communities, businesses, churches, organizations, and help lead their teams and grow in that way. And it's really an awesome nonprofit, and happy to be there. And Meta Conversions is my personal CRO agency where I help businesses grow and increase their conversions, mainly through digital marketing. Also help them with business consulting and strategy. So yeah.
So pretend like you didn't know what a CRO agency was. What does CRO stand for?
Yeah, so CRO is conversion rate optimization, which, to put it very simply, it's basically looking to increase the percentage of conversions. That could be new leads, that could be, more sales, and we do that through testing and optimizing usually the whole funnel, and testing landing pages, testing ads, testing email, all of those things.
Awesome. So we've got some comments. We've got our friend always saying it's Sabrina, and she says, hello, it's me, Sabrina. Same message every week. I get so excited when I see her popping in. Thank you, Sabrina, for stopping by. But she goes, Broadway musicals last night. She went and saw MJ the musical. That's cool. I want to know what musical that you did, because I'm kind of a musical geek. So
we did. This was back when I was at Turning Point, which is another global broadcast company, and they did a big Christmas show on Broadway. So I got to be in New York on Broadway for Christmas, which was, I wasn't on the stage, but being in New York at Christmas is a magical experience if you can ever do it. And it was awesome. We put on an awesome Christmas show there, and it's. If you've ever done a Broadway musical, it's just this flurry, set up, tear down within like a week or a few days, but it was a lot of fun.
Right. And the Global Leadership Summit, I wanted to mention that real quick, because I've gone through the last couple years, and I got to see one of my, because they have really big name speakers. I got to see, Todd Henry was one of them, and I'm a big fan of his Accidental Creative podcast and books, all the books that he's put out. So that was really cool. So if you have a chance to check that out, make sure that you guys, and we'll try to drop a link down below where you guys can find out more about it, because it's got some really great speakers. And
I will tell you, the speaker lineup for next year is pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about it. I've got some people where I'm like, we got them? How did we get them? And it's awesome. So I'm pretty excited. I wish I could say, but I might get fired. So
you just started. We don't want to mess that up. So
we don't want to get you fired.
Another.
So when is the conference? When is it?
It's in August. I think it's August 4th and 5th this year. It's a 2-day event. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So, and they simulcast around the country, so you can probably find some place close to you. So we'll drop the link in and let you guys figure that out.
And there's probably a host site near you. I mean, there's host sites all over the country.
Yeah. So very cool. Something else that's all over and that we love so much is Ecamm. The show is also sponsored by Ecamm. That's Social Media News Live /Ecamm. That's socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. They're doing a very special Vlogmas in their community. So they have some really cool trainings, a lot of fun stuff. Doc Rock's there, and a bunch of other guests are training on all the people who signed up for Ecamm this last month, and it's some fun stuff going on. So do a search inside of Facebook. Just search for Ecamm Community. You'll find that, and you can participate as well in Vlogmas. It's really a lot of fun. So go check that out on Facebook. So make sure you check them out. Also at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm, and appreciate them sponsoring the show. All right, Grace. First section, planning. This is just a little bit. It's not a big topic, but planning for 2022 in the midst of everything going on. So talk about this.
It's the most joyous season of the year for every marketer. Yeah. It is planning season. And while the challenges and changes brought on by the pandemic continue to impact brands and nonprofits and entrepreneurs in very unexpected ways in 2021 and ongoing into 2022. There are some big topics on every marketer's mind. There's an article by Think with Google in which they highlighted three big things, which was supply chain issues, remote work and unemployment, and low consumer trust. Now, I know that was more of a general thing based on their own research, but Colin, you've been through this last couple of years with us. The year before we were together. So what have you learned from this past year? What went well for you, and what are you looking to change as a marketer?
Good question. It's been interesting. I remember having a conversation with my mom like in the middle of this, and I said, I think there's gonna be a post-COVID world and landscape, and it's going to leave its mark in a lot of ways, and things are going to kind of be changed forever. And you've seen that with consumer behavior, and there's just a lot of things, like there's mental health, there's distancing, there's a convenience thing, there's like stocking up, there's some short-term effects and long-term effects. Like, as far as like mental health, I think 4 in 10 adults have reported like higher stress, anxiety, depressive disorder, where in 2019 it was 1 in 10. And that's just the people that were brave enough to say something. We're more distanced, and there's a lot of things that have gone remote. There's been a lot of dispersion in the market with education, medical and healthcare, media. You've got movies that are releasing, directly to digital, finance with crypto and PayPal, things like that. And also just in person, like I've noticed, out here in California, we kind of have a little bit bigger of a personal space than maybe areas like the East Coast.
Right.
Well, now that personal space is like 6 feet. I've just noticed people are just spread out more. In general, and convenience. Like, we value convenience now more as consumers. So that means more online orders. That means more delivery. You probably even have noticed this more. Like, you might be ordering food more, might be ordering groceries more, and people are stocking up. So that means cost per sale is going to go up. That means subscription models are more important, things like that. So I would say just like overall, think about how that affects your business. Think about your customer, how they've been affected for short-term and long-term, and also other things that are going on in their lives, right? Not just their consumer behavior. So like, have there been new schools? Has there been loss of friends and family? Are they less connected? What did they have to give up, or what did they lose from the pandemic? Everyone usually has less time, and they're more overwhelmed. That's what we're hearing from a lot of people in our partnership network. And then the long term, Grace hinted at this a little bit. Like, there's less trust, there's increased stress. It's going to be harder to make decisions for consumers. So that's a lot of the maybe things that are going on, right?
Yeah.
So, and then that's not even talking about like hiring churn and inflation, and there's a baby boom and the supply chain issues, right? So there's a lot of disturbance going on.
I want to talk a little bit about, okay, I get, yes, my online shopping and my business was, everybody wanted to get online and learn how to do video. So it was great, and it's changed behaviors. Like, I've got enough toilet paper for the zombie apocalypse because I'm never going to, I don't need to eat. I just need toilet paper. So I have plenty of that. If you listen to, what we just were talking about, it can be super overwhelming for marketers. Yes. Like, oh my gosh, I get all this. I see all this stuff happening. And it can be a little overwhelming. So what do marketers need, like, to consider or include in their analysis? Because that can be super overwhelming, especially for like small businesses, solopreneurs. What do they really need to focus on the most out of that kind of list that you said that you've been seeing?
Yeah. What do you do with all that? Right. Yeah. So I would actually like sit down and think about your customer, and if you have ways of interacting with them, talking with them, interviewing, like, find out what's going on in their lives, like find out what all those effects have been. Right. And we'll talk about that a little bit of like, and you're reviewing your 2021 plan, but I would say the biggest thing is you have to be able to adapt to your customers' adapting needs. Like, their needs are adapting, their pain points are changing. You need to be able to adapt so you can meet them there.
Mm.
And I'd also say the big thing is the trust. There's less trust, so that means you need to meet that with more transparency, especially about any negative experiences that your brand might or services or product might be delivering. So if there's something negative, like be upfront about it. The more you can be transparent, the more that will continue to build trust.
I think that's like, I've seen that a lot happening more with like things aren't happening with the supply chain, and people are like I've gotten some things like, hey, sorry, your order's delayed. Here's a $5 off coupon for next time. So, I mean,
Totally.
those companies are doing it well. Then other ones are like, just, you can't get any information from them. And, you know,
There's nothing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
those ones that are able to communicate, I think, are really going to win in the end. So,
Absolutely. And those ones that aren't, it's not that they don't know. They know what the issue is. They're just not communicating it to their customer. So
Mhm.
communicate it, and like when you don't address the negative experience, it doesn't just go away. Like
right.
your customer still experiences it,
Right.
and then they know you ignored them, so it's even worse.
Yeah. Great points about communication.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's funny though because like you talk about communication and being open and honest, and that brings up a question of personalization. So the being able to personalize an experience and go to them and say, "Hey, Colin, I know you had this problem," and then there's the other end of that where like, "How'd you know my name is Colin?" So like where how do you balance
You're
like,
like, wait a second, I thought I had
wait a minute.
privacy here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
right, right. And I know we've all gone through it last couple years with the questions about privacy. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, obviously, and there's a Facebook ad that they've been running where they're like, we're at the forefront of privacy. And I was like, okay,
Is
whatever,
that good or
right?
bad?
So does
Yeah.
that good or bad? And of course, we've been on the other side of it as social media marketers. We're like, that's our data, it's, whatever. So how do you balance being able to create a personalized um empathic experience for your customers versus respecting privacy security concerns that may come up if they don't really understand how you got that information?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. So the privacy thing, it's interesting because you have a lot of companies that are, fighting over privacy with Apple and Google and Facebook. And really all it is it's they want their piece of the pie. They want
Mhm.
your information. So they guise it as they want to protect you, but that's really not what's going on. That's kind of what's going on in the background. So that's actually decreasing trust even more. So again, I think it comes to transparency. As a consumer, they want transparency on their privacy. So yes, they want to have these meaningful experiences. They want it to be valuable as an individual. I would say try to make it memorable. If they can recall when they shared their information, you want to make that sharing voluntarily, right? Like, oh, I put in my name. I told you that my name is Colin, so now you're going to be able to address me as Colin, right? I gave that information to you voluntarily. If you make it memorable, then they will remember giving you that information, hopefully, or that will help them remember. And there's different ways to do it. Make it very clear.
Mhm.
Like just tell them that what you're going to do. Like, hey, here's what we're going to do with your information. Again, communicate, be transparent. And you can also make it more manageable. Give them agency. Maybe they only want you to know their name, or they only want you to know a few things about them. So make it so that they can review and manage how their data is being used. And then again, tell them how you're going to use that. Hey, we want your name so that we know who you are and we can address you that way. We want, your location so we can better serve you and show you things in your area that are more relevant to you. Tell them how you're going to use it, because a lot of times it's to serve them, it's to help them, right? And you just want to make that transparent for them.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Ladies first.
No, you go ahead. No, just kidding. We do this every week.
I
But
know.
so what okay, I have a question about like actual tactics. So what are the top
Yeah, yeah.
platforms or initiatives that businesses are investing in, and why? I always ask this question of, out of everything you could be doing as a marketer and all the places you could be, because I mean, there's no shortage of places where you can be. Why choose X or why choose Y and Z? So what are some of these top platforms that your company and your clients, what are they looking to
I,
do in 2022?
the big thing we're looking to do is invest in awareness, really. I would say, and that's more of a general thing. But video for sure. Investing in video and content marketing. Still, we can talk a little bit more of that probably later. But content, video awareness, like very top of funnel, because we just realized that there's a lot of people out there that still don't know who we are, and spreading that awareness. So it's really going to be a combination of all the channels of strategy. It's like, it's going to encompass organic, it's going to encompass paid social, it'll encompass public relations and SEO, but a lot of focus on video marketing and content marketing.
So on that, so I would assume for the Global Leadership Summit and Network, and that you would do really well on LinkedIn. So do you, I mean, I'd like to know like specific networks. Are you going to be doing more video on LinkedIn, or are you going to just, I mean, do you have one that you kind of prioritize over another when it comes to like social organic?
We kind of use both. I would
Okay.
say LinkedIn and Facebook are the two
Okay.
main ones.
Okay. Yeah. I just, because of that niche, I was thinking that was probably one that would focus on quite a bit. So I want to talk about, and I want to dive deep in this, because this is I hear more and more people talk about it, and and everyone's like, I'm going to double down this year. And I say the same thing, and then I end up not. I know Ian Anderson Gray, who's watching right now, he said the same thing. And so we're holding each other accountable, but it's all about the future of email marketing and what people are going to be doing for 2022. So, there's the whole thing that people are like, emails are back. And like, where did they ever go? We're still, it's Grace had written, it's so 2000, but more and more businesses are utilizing it over social media. In fact, I talked a little bit last week. The thing I read every day is Marketing Brew and the Morning Brew, and it's a specific newsletter that comes out daily that I read more than I do the other stuff. And there's certain ones I always open. Like I always open ones from Ian, I open ones from Mike Alton, I open ones from Ann Handley. So there's these emails that I work, that these long newsletters that I find very valuable, and more companies I think are doing this. So Entrepreneur said, even in the age of social media, more than 70% of people still like to hear from businesses via email, which I was really surprised at. And the other thing I would love to talk about as we talk about optimization is in this survey about email that I was reading. It said 42% of all email opens happen on mobile apps. And I know that I do that a lot too, but the problem is a lot of these, even big companies that are sending their flyers and sales out, aren't optimized for mobile. And it's just like garbage on there, and I can't click off their pop-up, and it just drives me nuts. And so I want you to talk about some of this stuff, like optimizing and, the bounce rate and all this stuff, what you've seen, because I know you're kind of specialized in this. What should we do in 2022? See, I rhymed. Look how cool that was. I should put a t-shirt together.
Well, there's a lot too, and there's a lot to be said about like, hey, reviewing everything you did for 2021, but email marketing is not dead. I don't know, or it didn't go away.
Right.
Or, I mean, you might have stopped sending emails, but no one else did. I mean, people's inboxes were still getting hit, and a lot of revenue is still coming, like 79% of revenue is coming from email. So we recently did an event a few days ago, and I filled all those registrations strictly from email.
Awesome.
So I would say it is still very important, and we can talk about the iOS 15 changes as well, and how that's affecting like open rates and things like that. But email is still very, very important, and should be a vital medium for your marketing strategy. So it's a big way you're going to stay top of mind and communicate with your customers.
So I want to bring up a couple comments from our audience. Gary says, Ann Handley's newsletter rocks. It really does. So if you don't do it, and she's so funny, I wish I could write like her. Her book and her emails are amazing. So check her out if you haven't done that. Sabrina says she always opens emails from the Coach outlet store. That's funny. My wife's in her Kohl's cash. She always opens those emails too. So, and then Anna says, email marketing has never gone away. People just don't like to use it like they should. Jenna Kutcher has always talked about the importance of your email list. Yeah. Amy Porterfield, a lot of those people talk about it. But here's the question I would love for your thoughts on. It's from Ian. He goes, how do you know if your newsletters are working or not? It's easy to lose sight of reality when you run your own business on your own. Man, I think he's echoing a lot of people right there. So how do you know if it's worth doing?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at your metrics, right? You have to look at the data. The data is going to inform that. But there also, and we could talk the specifics about that, but there also is things you cannot, like you just can't measure. And
Right.
if you think about how you interact with your inbox, you'll see these things, like when you pull up your inbox and you look through your emails, you're looking through your tabs, might be like, sometimes I just nuke my promotions tab. Okay. Like that means I go all the way, I go to the top, I click, I go to the bottom, I click, and I just like nuke it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just filling up. There are some emails I get that like I make sure I never miss that email.
Mm-hmm.
I'm clicking it and I'm opening it and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing what's in there because it's a brand I interact with, I really care about. There are also emails that I just see and I see that it's from like what company it's from and I don't open it.
Right.
And I might do that for 4 or 5 emails. And it might be a subject line that gets me to open, or it might just be timing. So I think timing is a big part, but I'll open it and then I'm reading the email. And then maybe it takes another 2 emails before I'm like opening, I'm reading it, now I'm clicking through your site. So when it gets to the metrics, right? Because you can look at like how much traffic are my emails driving, how many sales am I getting directly from emailing. You can look at the last click attribution. You can look at your assisted conversion value in Google Analytics, right? Like what did that email play a part in the conversion, right? Which it surely did. But there's also those like unseen metrics of like, hey, you were just like in my inbox and I'm seeing your brand and I'm like, your brand is top of mind, even though I'm not opening those emails.
Right.
So like the data can sometimes just not inform what's actually going on, which is like, hey, you got some awareness, you stayed top of mind. Like there's brands where I'm like, hey, I forgot about them because they weren't
Right.
my inbox, even if I wasn't ready to open their email. So sometimes like the timing's just off. People aren't checking their inbox at the right time. They're just nuking it. So I would say, look at those metrics. That's how you know whether it's working or not, but also just don't like give up on email because you're like, well, people aren't opening it, so I guess it's not working. Well, like, well, maybe look at like changing up your subject lines or change something up to like kind of disrupt the pattern a little bit, or change sender is a good way to like, throw people like, wait, who's this person? And they might just open the email and like, right. That works a lot. But also think about those like kind of unseen metrics that you won't get, especially with the changes that are coming. But those are also a contributing factor to everything as well.
So what's a time range that you should look at? Because just as you were talking, I realized my own email behaviors, which is I prioritize certain things like emails for my kids' school, and then for work over at Restream, like we've actually switched over to another platform we barely send emails, right? But then like, so there'll be one day a week where I'm like looking at all my emails. So I might get something sent to me on Monday. I'm not opening it till Friday, but I'm still opening it, right? I'm still getting it.
Right.
But if they're only looking at, oh, it had an open rate of such and such within 24 hours, well, they're not going to catch me.
Yep. Good question. No, yeah. That's a good point. I've seen emails perform like a month later. Okay. Especially with like the holidays, like you might be sending emails, especially like people are getting blown up right now, right? Because of just like everything going on with like the holidays. But then people are also like taking breaks and other things, and they're only interested in certain emails around this time, right? And so you might see people open emails from a month ago, right? Or even later, like depending on what's going on. So and depending on like all those things, like timing and events, and so you kind of need to look at those open rates further down the line as well.
One of the things, just a perfect example of that is, so like Ian and a lot of live video producers like myself, like we send out reminder emails about the show. A lot of times, like when I see it, I'll be reminded of it, but I won't even open it. Like you were saying, I'll just see it like, hey, show today at 3 p.m. I'm like, oh yeah, he's got a show. I'll go to it. And I don't open it. And so I think that's right. a great example of what you're saying. Let's talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it worked, but you can't measure that it worked.
Right. Yeah. What's a good, I know you probably get this all the time, and I know it's probably, it varies. What's a good email open percentage rate? I saw that there's kind of an industry standard, but then it varies by industry. What would, like when you're looking at yours for your company, you're a nonprofit, marketing and you have one big event a year, what is a good email rate for you guys?
I mean, I'd say if you're over 20%, 25%, that's good.
Okay.
It's going to be depending on your list size, right? But I would say if you're in that range, that's awesome. If
I know
you're
nonprofits have
less than
a higher.
10%,
I
yeah.
think the industry standard I read something like was like 3. Like it was like
Oh,
Wow.
bad. I'm like, really?
yeah,
And I know nonprofits are a lot higher. So that's why I was
yeah.
asking about that. So
I would think if you're hopefully like in the 15% range, 17% range. But if you push over 20, you're doing really well. Yeah.
yeah. So we have a question from Elisa really quickly. And she goes, I thought, this is over on YouTube, she said, I thought open rate reporting was going away. Did they delay that? I don't know where they're delaying it. But
No,
let's talk about these
no.
iOS 15 updates, because I think maybe
Yes.
that's what she's talking about with some of the reporting stuff. Um,
Yeah. If you've updated to iOS 15, you've seen this because I've actually seen this. And basically, what it is iOS 15 is kind of like implementing this mail privacy protection, and it's an opt-in feature with the Apple Mail app.
mhm.
Okay, so that means everybody that has iOS 15 on their iPhone, their iPad, or their iPod, this affects them. And what it's going to do is it will make it to where the reporting of the email opening will automatically happen. So you'll see open rates change from like 20% to like 50%, like
Mm.
because everybody with iOS 15 on those devices is going to have their emails automatically opened on the device. It's going to like count it as open whether they open it or not. So
Oh.
that just means that the open rate data is going to be skewed. That's basically all it means. Now, and it also means if you're doing like open rate split tests like that, it's going to be affected by that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So is there any remedy? How can we, I mean, I know, this,
yeah,
Facebook thing and the tracking and all that stuff's one thing, but what do we do? Like back to kind of Ian's question, how do we know if we're successful? Are we tracking it by, link clicks? I mean, how are
yes,
we, is that what we're doing?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Like I would say like you could still like if you were testing subject lines and open rates, you could still do that, but the metrics you would use would be like you'd be looking more at your click-through rate, and you'd be looking more at your conversions, your overall conversions. And those are still important metrics when you're doing subject line testing anyway, because you might get a higher open rate. Like in the past, you might have gotten a higher open rate, but your click-through would drop a little bit, or you get higher open rate, your click-through rate would be up, but then the sales would be lower. It's like there's things like that. You always have to keep the last conversion in mind
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing those types of tests.
Mm. Okay. Man, that's getting more complicated. So Grace, I know you
Oh,
had a
sorry.
question. No, I just,
No, just focus on
Well,
the sales. It's easier. It's
okay.
easier, I
Okay.
promise. Yeah.
yeah. Or focus on who clicks on the last link in your article, right? Or
Mm.
your email. 'Cause that means they made it all the way down to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
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 So, just to wrap up our segment on email, because we could talk forever. We could do a whole show just on email marketing. In fact,
Yeah.
I tried to do a whole show on email marketing, and then we're like, we have all this other stuff to talk about. But I want to talk about best practices. Now, you already talked about some of them, like with the links and the subject lines, and then looking at the open rate, timing, extending that period. But what are some of your tips overall for improving your email marketing initiatives, whatever your goals might be?
Test. Keep testing. Keep doing split tests, A/B tests with your emails. There's lots of different things. You can continue to test subject line and see the effects, right? Just look at the different metrics, look at your click through, look at your open rates. You can test body copy. You can test, the HTML versus the simple. Test all those things. Continue to do that. I would also say if you stopped emailing or you slowed your emailing, like re-engage. Re-engage if you stopped. And I'd also say if you don't have a re-engagement campaign for people that have lapsed, do that, because you can get people back in and engaged and back into your mainstream of messaging. And you can also learn a lot when you do a re-engagement campaign, because
Mm-hmm.
people will respond. Like people will be like, I stopped because of this. And you'll be like, okay, that's valuable information. Like, this person said no for this reason, right? And then you can start to, maybe you make a shift, but you can at least like get some information from your customers. And then you have a chance to, I would say, reply, continue to answer questions when people reach out. It is still a way to communicate. It is a communication. We're not just shouting in people's inboxes. We also want to like have a conversation there if we can as well.
Yeah. Okay. I want to throw an audible. Go ahead, Grace. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jeff. I was going to ask Colin, like, there's a lot of tools and a lot of technologies and a lot of platforms that you can use to distribute email. We have one at Restream called Iterable, and apparently, like, it just blows past like all the challenges with Google, right? The Gmail issues, right? Like getting it marked as legitimate email. And I never miss an email from my own company because of that. And it's amazing. So what are some of the tools that you recommend that you've used that have been successful for your email marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I've used Drip in the past. I've used, we're currently using Active Campaign, and there's a lot of tools in there, right, to just make sure you're staying out of spam, you're getting to the inbox, you're getting through clean. There's also, things you can do to test make sure your IP is good and things like that. Make sure it's clean. But yeah,
cool.
Definitely do all those things.
So I want to throw a little like audible in this that we didn't tell you we were going to talk about, but I wanted to talk a little bit about frequency, like how often should you email, and the other one would be like welcome sequences, because I stink at that, and I'm just going to get free consulting right now. So from college. So talk about like how often should you email your audience, and then also like how many, because I've seen some sequences that they've got it like it's like a choose your own adventure novel, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I mean, how detailed do you need to be with your opening sequence?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So as far as frequency, that's a tough one because it really depends on what's going on, right? If you have a campaign going on, you might have a steady rhythm. Like we're like, hey, we're going to email you every week because we have an update and there's, kind of set things. But it can fluctuate depending on what's going on. And I would say if you have something important to say, then up your frequency and let people know about it. If you're providing value, like consistently, like that's good. So there's no like hard and fast rule with frequency of like, am I sending too many emails? Am I not sending enough emails? If people are just like, if your unsubscribe rate is just going through the roof, then your frequency is probably too high, right? That's the metric I would look at, is your unsubs. And then as far as welcome sequences, I think some of the best ones I've seen, you can do, like the choose your own adventure thing. I think I would keep that to a minimum, because anytime you offer all these options, people tend to do nothing. Right. So like you were saying, you're like, well, I'll choose nothing, choose none of the above. And I think some of the best ones have been this like guided experience, and you've kind of put them into like, usually it's going to start with some sort of opt-in or freebie, right, from the welcome sequence. And you just kind of guide them through that content, and hold their hand through each step and tell them what's next. And that I would say is going to be high frequency. It's like, you're going to get this like immediately after you download. It's going to be in your inbox. Go check it out, because I want you to make sure you see this part of it, right? Mm-hmm. Now they're going into their inbox and they're engaging. And sorry, I have a military plane flying over, so I don't know if you guys can hear that.
He's going to be okay, folks.
I'm going to be okay. We did have a plane crash out here, but
oh my gosh,
we're doing okay. So now they're going to go to their inbox. Then you would say, hey, I'm going to email you for the next 7 days, and we're going to walk through this resource that you gave them, or whatever you wanted them to see them, or get them to know your brand and all the different aspects. And then tell them what's next. Like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be emailing you about this. I want you to check out this page, or I want you to check out this at this minute mark in the video. Like give them points that they can go to, tell them what they're going to get, tell them what's next. And now they're expecting that email the next day. I'm going to email you this. This is the subject line. You're going to see it. Like it's as simple as that, and just walk them through, hold their hand through that experience. That's some of the best welcome sequences I've seen. And you're just like getting value every step of the way. And because a lot of times people, I'm sure you've seen this, people will get the freebie, they'll get the download. Nothing happens. They never open it, and they never do anything ever again. And that's not the type of person you want on your email list. You want somebody who's engaged with that. They've gotten value from it. they've got to know you and your brand, and they've had a good experience in that welcome sequence. Like you welcome them, so.
That's great. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back and rewind and listen to that all again, because that was really good. And Brian says, maybe I need to tell the Bitcoin scammers that 10 emails a day is a little bit too many.
That's probably a little.
That's probably a little excessive. So, this is about, we talked a little bit about the future of email marketing. So what is it just the same old best practices? There's nothing really new under the sun. Is it just for 2022, do you see anything changing in email other than really focusing and testing more and having maybe some new tools to do that? Is there anything like crazy on the horizon that you've seen?
Not that I see. I think the biggest disruption was the iOS 15.
Okay.
But no,
Okay.
I don't see anything else coming up that's alarming.
And this is going to kind of go into our next section, but I'd love to get your thoughts, because we do it, text marketing. So, and one of the things, because this ties into the privacy thing, is I tell people like, hey, sign up for this text reminder, and we're not going to spam you with anything. It's just a reminder about the show. And I think it's really important, and I've seen other companies do this, is like, if you say you're going to only get this, you don't dump them into your general list. Love your thoughts on text-based marketing, and also like, doing what you say you're going to do, because so many people just dump you in that big funnel, and you're like, I didn't sign up for that. I don't want,
Yeah, SMS and WhatsApp are huge, and those are, those integrations with like Shopify and stuff. Those are great ways to like automate and have those conversations. Like they have higher open rates, higher response rates than I think something like a 98% open rate.
It's awesome.
They're through the roof, and it is like people are pretty protective of their like phone numbers and their messaging inbox on their phones, their texting. So I would just caution, like you said, do what you say you're going to do there, because it's kind of it's more sacred than the email inbox. Right. I would say that. So don't abuse it, but it is powerful. It's a powerful way to communicate. I mean, we all have our devices with us, usually 24 hours a day. So we're going to get those alerts. We have watches with them. We're going to get it on our watch. Right. Like people are going to see those messages. So make sure they're worth seeing, make sure they're important enough, because I think it can be really easy to burn people out, and they're going to opt out if it's not something that's helpful for them or serving them. Like think about the types of SMS alerts that you want to get. And there's things like helpful reminders, and maybe it's like upcoming appointments and stuff like that. Like I always opt in for the appointments. Like, yep, blast me, let me know. I don't want to forget about that appointment. Right. Things like that. Totally okay with. Yeah. So if you think about things like that, like for events, how you can use that for events and letting people know about events, and hey, we want to make sure you don't miss this, and those can be important ways. But yeah, definitely don't just like throw them into your main marketing channel and just start blasting them unless they're game for that. They might be like, yep, give it to me, I want it all. That's where getting back into like letting them choose what information they're giving you and what they're opting into is really valuable and important.
That's great advice. And Brian says, dumping everybody in a funnel is probably the quickest way to lose trust. And so I think that's true as well. And what I kind of think of anybody who's given us the their phone number for the email, the text reminders, that's almost automatically what Pat Flynn calls super fans. So that's what I treat them as. Like they love our stuff. They want to get reminded about the show. Yep. I am not going to mess up that relationship. They're only going to get what I said that they're going to get. So I think, that's great. So that leads right into our next section, digital marketing predictions. So he's going to put on his little hat, and he's going to, what was that on Carson? He would always do the great, I can't even remember what
he's like.
Yeah,
holding up
that's right. Yeah,
the envelope. Karnak.
Right? Yeah. So Colin Karnak is what we're going to have today. So Grace, take it away.
I like that you held up your phone to your forehead, because that is where my brain lives, actually, in the phone. So that is accurate. Thank you.
I didn't have an envelope on hand.
Yes.
Who uses those anymore?
My gosh! Just send an email, Colin. Just kidding.
Come on.
So Ford published its 5 digital marketing predictions for 2022. Of course, the top three in there were hybrid events as being the new normal. I know you and I can both have a long conversation about what that is like. AI, and then, of course, content, which you touched on at the top of our show. So Jeff and I had our little prediction show a few weeks ago. It was just based on a roundup of the news we've been seeing. But tell us, what are your digital marketing trends? What are the digital marketing trends that you are seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, hybrid events is the new normal. That means partially in person and partially digital. And at the GLM, we have a very, I think, unique model where we have these host sites. We have these host site partners all over the world that are in person events, and they're hosting our event and live streaming it there. And then we also needed to adapt to the digital experience. And so now that, yes, hybrid events are the new normal, I think the big thing is, hey, how are you serving both of those, and how are you creating important experiences for both the digital and the in person? Because it's there's two now to focus on, and I think a lot of people don't focus on the digital experience as much, especially if they like came out of the in person. If they're purely digital, they are, because that's the main focus. But if they're in person, they might neglect the digital experience, and so you just want to make sure that you're making that as good of a interaction and experience as possible, with like second screens and the information and just everything that they get to interact with, so that they get to feel a little bit of the experience. They can't be there, so you just want to make that as impactful as possible for them, instead of just like, oh, they're just like, they've got a watch page and that's it. I think we've moved past
Right.
just having a watch page. People expect a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think you're right. So,
Yeah.
one of the things is we wanted to talk a little bit about one of the articles we had kind of did some research on. It's talking about nonprofits as business opportunities, and it was, according to, this was a 2018 report from AccuCenter, 62% of customers want companies to take a stand on current and broadly relevant issues like sustainability, transparency, or fair employment practices. And the chances are good in 2022 that brands will continue to kind of emphasize these values in their marketing. So there's been a lot of talk about building partnerships with nonprofit organizations that are actively helping the community, preserving the environment and generally kind of making the world a better place. So, there's also been people who've gotten in trouble because you shouldn't just collaborate just to say, we're doing this just because we can. We have a great podcast coming out on Guy Kawasaki show about the fashion industry and the sustainability of that, and those jeans that say are made from bottles or whatever. It's just a big hype. It's and they're all fighting over the same resource, and it's just, so when you find out that, you're like, oh my gosh, they're not really doing anything. I'm the one recycling. They're just buying, whatever. And so you got to be careful of yoking yourself to somebody that's not really doing what they say they're doing. So how can, you talk to us a little bit about how companies can align their values with maybe some other nonprofits or somebody else who's got a vision that fits into this, and doing it in a way that's not just using them to have a good night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think, companies that are using that, trying to leverage that in a way that's not authentic, it's just not going to come off well, with customers, like you're saying, if it's not really authentic. I think the key is like, if you can find common values or similar values, or maybe it's just a nonprofit like you, hey, we believe in their mission. Like, we just believe in their mission. Like, for me, we give 10% of all revenue to charity water. It's like, well, because we believe in that mission, that they're bringing clean water to places all around the world that don't have it. Like, that's just, it's a necessity for human life. So that's just an easy one. There aren't really, that's not tied to CRO in any specific way.
Right.
That's just a nonprofit that I believe in. And so I think if you can find similar values, that's great. But I know that there's lots of companies that partner with nonprofits, and it's just because they believe in that cause. But it's got to be authentic. Customers see that a mile away when you're just doing it to to look good or to say that
Right.
you're doing it.
Right. And I think there's going to be more and more of those kind of companies that will get in trouble in 2022 because they're going to find out like, oh, they really didn't give. And what was it called, Grace? Greenwashing, when they
Yeah, it was greenwashing. They have another word for it, virtue signaling. There's
right.
there's a lot of little like code
Sure.
words out there when people, well, essentially what they're getting at is like, this doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel authentic. Right.
Right.
So,
So let's talk about this for like, so, most people are good and want to do good things, but it doesn't always mean that, like, especially like companies like mine and Ian's, and sometimes we don't have the resources to, to join in or whatever. So what can we do? I know, like, I think a great example maybe like Lou Mangello, who we've had on the show before. He partners with Make-A-Wish, and he's just kind of organically raised over the years like $150,000, $200,000 to bring kids from the Make-A-Wish Foundation to Disney through. He sponsors running teams and does events and stuff. And so, is that the best way for, I guess, smaller companies and solopreneurs is to maybe partner with one of these big organizations and just maybe drive awareness to it?
Yeah, I think so. Like you don't necessarily have to be giving revenue, but even if you can just partner with them in that way, bring awareness, use your platform and leverage that, and say that this is a cause that you believe in. That might get your customers or your base interested in that nonprofit and that cause. Might be relevant to them again, especially if there's similar values there. Or but if you're a donor, you believe in the mission, you should be able to communicate that to your customers.
Awesome. Grace, did you have anything to follow up before I?
Yeah, absolutely. So, essentially, we want to know, like, what are some companies that are doing a great job collaborating with nonprofits or charitable organizations? But I want to flip that around a little bit because you do work for a nonprofit and you also have your own company. So let's say some brand comes to you at Global Leadership Network and says that, we want to partner with you. We believe in you. What are some questions you'd have for that company before you agree to partner with them or allow them to partner with you, however that relationship goes? Like, what would you be looking for in a company partner and a brand partner?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd obviously want to know like what they're doing, what the impact is, make sure it's in alignment with our company vision, and we want to, a lot of times it would be like communities or businesses, in local areas, and it might not necessarily be like big companies, but it might be like smaller partnerships, and we wouldn't want to overlook them if they're having an impact in the community. Like we want to empower them and help them to do that. So to be just making sure the vision is in alignment with what we're trying to do, but we're trying to have a positive impact in those communities. Like when the leaders get better, everybody gets better, the organization gets better, the community gets better. And so we just want to make sure it's in alignment with that, and overall what the growth of that community or business or area is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Colin, I'm so glad that we were able to have this chat, because if anybody knows what's going to happen in 2022, it's you. So I appreciate you coming.
I don't.
but you have a lot of knowledge. But
yeah, we can do our due diligence to be as prepared as possible, and we know some things that are coming. But,
right. So
I don't know if there's a Zeta variant or not. I can't tell you that.
No, I've learned enough about the Greek alphabet that I've ever wanted to know. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done learning about Greek.
I do want to bring a comment up. So when we're talking about superfans, Sabrina says, I am a superfan. Sabrina, you are super awesome, and we super appreciate you. Thank you for all you do and sharing it out. She is
many texts today.
She's so anyway, Colin, where can people, we've been flashing up your lower third, but let's go ahead and say it for people listening to the podcast. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, if you're interested in conversion rate optimization, or just you want to work with me, you can go to live.metathesite.com/contact. Just fill that out. Let me know what you want to talk about, and we can talk there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And those are kind of just the best two ways to find me.
Awesome. Grace Duffy, where can we find out about all things Grace Duffy and what you're doing?
Every week, Friday with you, Jeff.
Every week,
every Friday. Except I'm here, except when I'm not. That's what I say now.
That's right.
Yes. I'm over at Restream. Come check us out. We are a live streaming platform that allows you to multi-stream to multiple different places. So come check that out. That's where I am when I'm not with Jeff on Fridays here.
That's right. And you guys, thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. Thank you, Sabrina, as always. Dustin for stopping by, all the great comments. Elisa, Brian, everybody who's participated, whatever platform you're on, leaving us great comments and suggestions. And we would love to give a shout out, and we're going to give a shout out to our friends over at Ecamm. They make all this possible. If you'd like to make an awesome live show like this, make sure you guys go check them out at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. Check out their community. They're doing Vlogmas right now. You can just do a search for them in Facebook. Just search for Ecamm community, and you should be able to find that and join there because they are amazing, and we appreciate them sponsoring the show. And so before we end, I want to bring up this by Brian. He goes, "Thank you to all, and I want Colin's lamp." I know, it's an awesome lamp. The Star Wars lamp for you guys listening on the podcast.
The Star Wars lamp.
It's amazing. I don't know. I haven't seen it before. Now I have to go do a search on Pinterest and find it out.
I don't know where you get that. Who knows where my dad found that.
It's amazing. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate all you, and we will see you guys next week. We're at the same time. It's on, what's the date next week? It is
17th.
The 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. We're always on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Amazon Live. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Mac called Ecamm Live. You can add some overlays to your video, whether it's a simple graphic or you want to have some titles or other info at the bottom of your screen. You can even add animated overlays like this one or this one. And you can add branded overlays to frame you and your guests and look like a real legit broadcast. And you can save each layout as a scene and switch between them with the press of a button.